Hello and welcome to another edition of the weekly podcast, Conversations with Azu. I am Azuka Buhari, and of course I have,
Julius Ogre.
and I have the man always in the conversation, always having conversation and dropping it hot every week. Good day.
Thanks for having me once again, folks. Nice to be here.
Good. So this week, a lot of things have happened, and then he decided to drop another banger, as the Gen Z people would say. Jonathan and Sam, 2 books, 1 message. Very, very interesting conversation, I must say. So a few weeks ago, I saw pictures and I saw conversations around the launch of the book.
Correct.
Sam Omatseye, who is a very senior colleague to me, maybe my mate to me.
Yeah.
And I could see that the president of Nigeria, that is the city boy himself, President
Bola Ahmed
Tinubu, was pretty impressed, and I was actually expecting to do a piece on that. So, what was the motivation behind that piece? Was it just because of the book itself, or when you had to mirror what Jonathan had done? What was the inspiration behind this piece?
Okay, thanks for that question. As you said, I've had these 2 books for quite a while. Of course, Jonathan's book, The Human Flow, came in January, after I'd been mailed and lingered for quite a while in transit, but finally got it. But I never quite came around to it until very recently. But as to my motivation for sort of commenting on The Human Flow, which is Jonathan Carr's book, and of course Sam Omaseye's book. Sam's book, we know that even though the 2023 presidential elections been over in Nigeria for over a year, but we still appear somehow to be in an election mode. And all kinds of questions still being asked about what happened and how did the candidates emerge and all of that. And I personally found the release of the book coming at the time when it did as something of value that would probably provide a little more insight into exactly what happened and how the candidates emerged. And I wasn't let down. My expectation was not let down by what I found. Of course, as you say, I was present in the presentation. And Sam's book, Beating the Odds, did not disappoint.
How did you manage to review 2 books, 2 opposing genres of literature side by side? Were you holding this one and reading side by side? How did you do it?
Not quite. I think it was both as a matter of necessity and also as a matter of interest. And as we also see in life, there are a lot of things that are quite connected. If you look quite closely at most things that happen in life, inspect and reflect, look at them a bit closely, you would find that there are dots, there are connections, right? It is so for human beings, for living organisms, as it is for the work that we produce. And I found that, of course, in these 2 books. Perhaps my strategy for review would have been different, but just in reading and enjoying them, I found that connection, which wasn't difficult for me to spot as soon as I started reading. So I think it's just a matter of reflecting on them and finding that connection, which often exists in many common occurrences in life.
Okay, I'd like to ask, what was your first thought when you read both books? I haven't been able to look at the review of Jonathan's book,
Yeah.
but Sam Omaseye's book has been creating a lot of buzz on social media.
Yes.
So I would recommend it for anyone who wants to know the build up to the election, particularly like the part where you talked about the Obasanjo visit.
Okay.
And that particularly tickled my fancy. But I would honestly like to know, what was your first thought when you read both books?
Yes, so my first thought, Jonathan had promoted his book to me because he and I have been friends for many years. So he promoted it many months before the book was released by Columbia University Press. And it's Jonathan's first novel, and he's 82. And as I said in my column, it was just a bit like a woman finding that she's pregnant when she thought she was already past pregnancy. And she really was excited to get the book out. So I was excited for him because it did not, as I say, did not let down. it didn't disappoint. But now let me come to your question about my thoughts also on Sam's book. I have also, Sam and I, colleagues, have followed Sam for many years. We follow this great and extraordinary work. He's a poet, and I call him man of letters. It also, Sam now does not make any pretenses about his relationship with Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who's the president. He doesn't pretend about it.
I particularly love that part.
Yes, he just does not make any, he doesn't pretend about it. You know where he stands, especially as far as the election is concerned. So I wanted to understand from his insider point of view those heady days between when he started journaling, which was 2 months after the presidential primaries and the election. You know, I was quite curious. I know quite a bit about it, I think I do, but I was curious for more. And I believe that my curiosity was more than satisfied by some of the things I eventually saw. And that kept me going, not just through the early diary pages, but all through the book. And also reading the second part of the book, which deals extensively with his collection of his articles for the past 10 years or so. Also reminded me of some of the things, of course, that happened in the past.
Yeah, I'm curious. How did we come to having one message from a work of fiction and a diary?
Oh, yes, good point. As I say, there are connections in most things in life that we look at closely. And but from the point of view of diary, which is what Sam's book was about, it's part diary, part essay. So Sam was sharing what actually happened, and you could see what happened, especially as it related to the ruling party and how they tried actually to maul. Yes, all through, you could see that. And you could see clearly a failure of leadership in terms of how the party conducted itself pre and post the primary, even right up to the elections. You could see clearly that there was just that clear failure of leadership. It wasn't just a matter of politicians being at their worst, which we know them to be. It was just a clear matter of deliberate dislike and resentment. And you just couldn't understand what this was about because they were supposed to be members of the same party. So I saw clearly that there was a leadership question to be dealt with. And then if you look at Jonathan Parr's book, which is a work of fiction, Jonathan Parr is familiar with Africa. He's a great friend of Obasanjo's, by the way, and I know that for a fact. You also see much of that experience playing out in his book, but his is a work of fiction, and it's a work of fiction regarding what a lot of young Africans, West Africans particularly, go through as they try to escape the sheer, poor and bad governance on the continent for a better future. And you see that this sort of exodus, which we call it either Japa or whatever it is you call it, is also it also exemplifies the failure of leadership. So when you look at both, although one is a work of fiction and one is also a demonstration of real life, you can easily see that it is essentially that missing link of leadership that connects both worlds.
So I'm going to be quoting a bit of the Vice President here, where he talked about trustworthy, a lot of people. Basically, I'm going to summarize it. Where he talked about how the book will make people trust more and see the process and transparency and all of that. But then I'm a bit, personally, I think I'm a bit conflicted there, because reading the reviews of the book and from what you said, it's obvious that Sam did not have it.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
So to the regular people who do not have a faith, don't you think reading that book we just say, oh, okay, it's just something, it's just someone writing about his friend? Or do you think that a lot of conversations that he had in that book were just to show generally people how the 2023 elections went?
Yes, you see, the thing about a diary is that it's your point of view. It's your journaling of the situation unfolding. Nobody can argue with your diary, So if they think your diary is incorrect or it offends a certain point of view, they can write theirs. All right. So honestly, I think that's what I believe. So Sam has written his point of view, and I'm sure that Ashwani Bola Ahmed Tinubu was not only the only presidential candidate, we are candidates from the other parties, even within the APC itself. There were, so others who feel that he has not correctly represented the fact. Also, they should feel free to offer their point of view, and I think that we are all better enriched by such engagements. But to quarrel with him because he expressed his point of view,
the obedience are not having it.
Well,
I went on Twitter and I saw a couple of tweets, and trust me.
Well, Sam has never had it. He's not had it easy with the obedience for quite some time. There was a time we had to go into hiding. But I think that it's okay to disagree. And I get the point that some of the commentaries he made regarding that particular article, which was titled Betrayals, is quite controversial. But I think we should. I think he also meant it as
metaphor.
Yes, as a metaphor. He didn't mean it the way it was literally taken. I think that, so we also have to find a way of appreciating the work of artists. And when you think people have crossed a particular boundary, you can also find a way of calling them to order without issuing a fatwa.
I think this is a good place to end the conversation. It is said, if you don't read, you are not better than those who didn't go to school. Conversation with Azu is a weekly diary on life and politics. Please visit our social media handles. By the way, Azu has another book up his sleeves. This time around, he is not going to be the reviewer, he is going to be the author. In order not to miss out, stay on our channel, visit our social media handles, and subscribe. Thanks for coming on the show, Azu.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Azu.
Thank you.